Welcome to the Big Blue Radio Show, coming to you on Tulsa Community College's online radio station, The Grid, and on the Creativity Channel. I'm Greg Stone, Provost of TCC's Metro Campus.
And I'm Lee Goodson, President of Tulsa Community College. TCC's paralegal education program is well known in the region and is part of a long history of legal service in the Tulsa community.
Today we'll visit with Professor Michael Speck about the role of the Paralegal Studies program on the Big Blue Radio Show. Well, Michael Speck, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time today. Some people hear the words paralegal studies or hear paralegal, and they may still have a rather dated, maybe even a sexist notion about what a paralegal is. What is the paralegal profession like in the 21st century?
Well, a paralegal or legal assistant, and they're treated as synonyms, is, by the American Bar Association's definition, somebody who works under the supervision of an attorney performing substantive legal tasks. Now, while the profession is dominated by women, there are men in the profession as well. We typically have anywhere from 1 to 5 students in the program at a time who have been accepted as students into the program, that is. The way the profession is changing, that has a lot to do with how the practice of law itself is changing. So in years past, and paralegalism isn't a very old profession, it's a 20th century invention, and more specifically the second half of the 20th century. Paralegals had done principally work in discovery and work with the rather demanding task of managing multiple dockets. As we move into the 21st century, the research tools that are available have allowed paralegals to do more factual-based research, actual investigation, and also legal research in a way that's cost-effective, makes it far more efficient for the law firm and less expensive for the client. So in addition to doing discovery work and investigative work, which is probably still the bread and butter of a paralegal on a day-to-day basis, they can now do legal research without having to pass a cost along to the client that's 4 or 5 times as much by having a junior associate. And then now, and this is a relatively recent development, in the last about 15 years ago, the federal courts decided to go electronic, where they allowed for multimedia presentations of exhibits during the course of hearings and trials. State courts have been slower to adopt this, but some studies have indicated that you have greater fact retention by juries when you have these multimedia presentations, so state courts are beginning to embrace these rules. And increasingly, the discovery process, which of course now includes documents that are stored electronically as opposed to just banker boxes of documents, includes from day one preparing for a big multimedia presentation at trial to a juror. So now paralegals, in addition to knowing something about the law, being efficient time managers, being good investigators, they now also have to be a little nerdier than they've ever had to be before.
Interesting. Talk to us just a little bit about maybe the specifics of the program. For instance, is it competitive entry? Do you have a limited number of students that you can take? What's the admissions process? How many students do you have? Just maybe a little bit of so people can get a picture of kind of what your student body looks like and what that looks like.
Well, we have, over the last 5 years, an average of about 115 students. Haven't looked at the 2016 academic year data yet, but we've got about 115 students as declared majors every year on average, and then we're graduating a little under 15 students per year on average. The system is regimented so that you have to have a number of prerequisites satisfied in order to apply for admission to the program. Those includes English, communications, political science, and computer literacy, as well as the intro to the paralegal system. So out of that 115 or so, about 70% who declare a major, end up changing their major, moving on to another program, having
I
decided
see.
it's not for them.
Okay.
So we have typically a cohort of around 18 per year. This year's a little lower, about 13 this year. And that allows us to graduate around 14 and a half per year, meeting the market need of around 16 per year. The market can handle 16.7 associate degrees, paralegals per
So
year.
you really stay up on your data in terms
Yes.
of
Yeah, you have to in order to do it.
workforce need.
Yeah, we're 55% of our students are in the workforce development degree. We've got 2 degrees, a workforce development degree and the associate's degree. And the principal difference being really just the math and the sciences back down in the associate of arts of applied science degree, the workforce
Sure.
development degree. And we have increased paralegal courses. And that's the only difference.
Well, and I wanted to ask about that. I mean, what are the what are the options for students once they complete the program? And you just said, you know, there's the workforce option, but also the associate option, which is a transfer option. And what are the where can our students go in terms of regional partners to continue? And then, and what degrees do they continue going? And
Well,
what
with
before?
either degree, a student could go right into the workforce. Matter of fact, I encourage them from day one. Orientation, the Saturday before classes start. We just had our orientation this last Saturday to get into the workforce as quickly as possible so they can apply some of these lessons. But you could also transfer on to the university, any university in Oklahoma with either degree. But with the AAS degree, instead of having a 124-hour bachelor's degree, you're going to have about a 130-hour bachelor's degree. So the AA degree just saves you time and money.
Got it.
We've had a long relationship with Northeastern. We're working on 3 articulation agreements with Oklahoma State University. We're in the final stages of that. You should be having them cross your desk sometime soon for signature. So there'll be a number of options. In particular, I'm excited about the Oklahoma State articulation agreement. So they have the opportunity to save some time and money and transfer to a campus that's just right up the street.
Yes.
As opposed to commuting down to Northeastern, which many students can do, especially those who live on the south side of town. But if they're in the workforce, it can be pretty demanding to
Sure. Add that
leave
commute
class,
time.
leave work, and when most of the work is downtown,
Yeah.
and then go down to Broken Arrow and then back again.
Sure.
It's going to be a great option.
But with the encouragement to enter the workforce as soon as possible, we find that the bulk of our students, and something on the order of probably around 65%, are employed before they graduate, one way or the other, even if they go on and pursue another degree. Now, you asked which degrees can they pursue. They can pursue any degree. It's not uncommon, but not usual, for a paralegal to work their way through law school, for instance.
Sure.
And that's one of the paths that we're exploring with Oklahoma State. But you can make a handsome living with just a 2-year degree as a paralegal and far less debt. Zero debt if you do it right.
Yeah.
For those who want to go on and pursue a bachelor's degree but don't intend on going on to law school, I often recommend explore another degree other than legal studies, because you want something to complement the type of work that you're doing. And the example I like to use best is if, for instance, you want to work around tax lawyers. Lawyers are a weird group, but if you want to work around them, that's fine. But you need to know something not just about the law, but you need to know something about accounting.
Right.
So take every accounting elective you can while you're here, get a bachelor's degree in accounting as well as your paralegal studies degree. I've got 4 or 5 friends off the top of my head I can think of who are practicing paralegals in Oklahoma who have bachelor's degrees and master's degrees in areas other than legal studies. And they work in state and federal government, they work in industry. So the sky's the limit. Whatever intellectual interest you have, maybe not the liberal arts, but those of us with liberal arts degrees, we go on to graduate school.
Right. So do you have relationships then with potential employers throughout the city? Is that how that works? Or are your students expected to develop those relationships while they're in school?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So Take this incoming cohort. There's about 13 students, and probably 5 of them are already employed in the law office.
Okay, so they're coming in
They're
to
coming in
improve
employed.
their credentials with the job they've already got.
Right.
Okay.
In large part because their bosses want to charge for them. And you cannot charge a client for paralegal work unless that paralegal has a degree
I see.
or certification under an Oklahoma case from, I think it's 93, called Taylor v. Chubb. But for those other students, when they're looking for work, in addition to the adjunct faculty who keep an eye out for talent for the firms that they come from, we'll get calls and emails regularly throughout the year, and then I'll pass that information along to both alumni and students. And that's in addition to the work I do to keep my fingers on the pulse of the job market. Then we have the four paralegal associations, both national and local paralegal associations here in Tulsa, that have job markets, and I introduce the students to them and encourage them to join so they can have access to those not publicly available job listings and begin networking from day one.
Michael, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to ask you in just the couple of minutes that we have left about those organizations. Tulsa has a really unique place in the history of this profession. Give us the 2-minute overview of what that history is.
It might take 3.
Okay.
But in the 20s, a woman by the name of Eula Mae Jett, known as Bobby to her friends, was a legal secretary out in California, and she started an organization, the Association of Legal Secretaries, and she incorporated that in the late 40s, I think it was 1949, as the National Association of Legal Secretaries. And their first corporate offices were in Chicago. And about 20 years after that initial incorporation, they moved down here to Tulsa in the 60s. In 74, a number of the members thought that legal secretaries and legal professionals needed a separate set of representation and a separate set of credentials, separate from the broad category of legal secretaries and other support staff that belong to the membership. So in 75, the board voted to create the National Association of Legal Assistants, NALA. And NALS, National Association of Legal Secretaries, and NALA shared offices until the 80s. Well, about 1983, I think it was, NALA and NALS separated all their resources and had separate offices, but they both decided to stay here in Tulsa. So the 2 largest organizations that represent paralegals and legal assistants are headquartered here in Tulsa.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. And it happened to work out that one of our adjuncts, Carl Morrison, who's been teaching since about a semester after I got here. I saw him give a lecture, and I thought, that guy's got to come teach for us. He's awesome. He's the immediate past president of the National Association of Legal Professionals, or NALS. So we've got this unique relationship that no other community has with the national community. Just last summer, the NALA organization had a 40-year anniversary, it was a 40-year anniversary here, celebrated in downtown Tulsa. So there was paralegals from all over the country wandering around. And then NALS has every year a education seminar, and they hold it here in Tulsa, usually in February. And so the students get an opportunity to go meet paralegals from all over the country, and we get an opportunity to go speak to paralegals all over the country.
It's a great opportunity for students.
That's a really rich history.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, kind of a niche.
We're pretty much the heart of paralegalism. Even though we only have about 710, 720 paralegals practicing in the greater Tulsa metro area.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting.
As Dr. Stone was saying beforehand, we've had the opportunity to add some infrastructure to the program. We had a donation of approximately 2,300 books from a local law firm that was moving their offices from the south side of town to the north side of town. And that permits me to be able to do instruction without going into the library and interrupting the studying that's going on there. We have another 2,000 or so books in the library. In addition to that, we secured a Perkins grant that allowed us to purchase 20 convertible tablet laptops so students can get up move around the room. I can set it up in ways that more simulate a hearing room or a courtroom, and then they can practice some of the skills that they would have to learn for not only assisting attorneys, but actually acting in a semi-representative or non-representative assistant capacity. And I'll revisit one question earlier. You said, how's paralegalism changing in the 21st century? A couple years ago, Washington did a study analyzing the legal needs of their community, and they found that, no surprise, there was a large number of their residents who had unmet legal needs, and one of the solutions they had was to issue a license, a limited license, for non-attorney professionals to give legal assistance. It's called the LLT, the Limited Legal License Technician Program. That went into effect in 2014, and they now have, I believe the number I last saw was 17 in January. 17 non-attorneys providing limited, non-representational legal assistance to Washington state residents in the very narrow area of family. Other states are looking at that. Utah and I believe it was Colorado have recently, within the last 12 months, decided they're going to follow the same plan, and they're adopting rules like that. California, Oregon, Hawaii, Ohio are looking at it. Florida and Texas and Louisiana and Arizona have very limited older types of non-representational assistance by non-attorneys. I think that we're going to see in the coming years, and others disagree with me, and certainly some are opposed to the concept, but I think what we're going to see is a change in the profession, much like we saw with physician's assistants in the 70s and the 80s. There's an unmet need that lawyers are not addressing, in large part because there's not enough of us, and there's not enough of us for a lot of systemic reasons, the cost of the legal education being one of them. And so what that will mean for programs like this is that if, and it's a big if, Oklahoma were to adopt a rule like that, we would probably have to go from a 2-year program to a 3-year program of 30, instead of 30 hours, 45 hours of education, because that tends to be the model. Now, it could be that never comes to fruition, that we make the systemic changes we need to make to the practice of law by attorneys, but I'd be willing to bet that it's a change that we're going to see.
That's where we're headed.
Yeah. It might be 5 years, might be 10 years, might be never. But other states are headed that way, and I think we'll follow the lead.
So we have one more question, and it's called the big question. And that's if you were advising your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself?
Embrace humility early on. It's something that life beats into you one way or the other, so you might as well.
That is good advice. We always get really good advice on that.
We do.
We're going to be so wise after a full season of this show. So
now, the American Bar Association is coming to visit our program in February of this year, and one of the people they want to talk to is you. February 8th, they would like to talk to you or a representative.
Well,
it's exciting to be able
here.
to have that credential again with our program, to be with the ABA, so it's exciting.
Many of the larger law firms and some of the state and federal agencies seem to have a preference for ABA-approved programs, and it gives us an objective standard, a rigorous objective standard to measure up to, which I've been measuring up to since we got here.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we do want to thank our guest, Professor Michael Speck, for joining us on the show. Appreciate it.
And thank you for being here too. Remember, you can find us every week online at The Grid, tulsacc.edu/thegrid, and on the Creativity channel. We'll see you next time.